Right now, you're probably sitting somewhere completely alone. Maybe you're in your bedroom. Maybe you're wearing headphones. Maybe nobody has spoken to you for hours. You think of that as normal. But for almost the entire history of the human species, it would have been impossible. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived surrounded by other humans every moment of every day. They slept together, ate together, traveled together. There were no bedrooms, no locked doors, no private conversations, no place to disappear. And yet somehow they still fell in love. They still argued. They still had secrets, which creates a very strange question. How did ancient humans handle life with no privacy at all? No private space, no private thoughts, no way to be alone. The answer is far more surprising than most people realize, because the story is not about what ancient humans lacked. It's about something modern humans may have lost. And once you understand how our ancestors lived together for nearly 290,000 years, you start seeing privacy, loneliness, and human relationships in a completely different way. For the vast majority of human history, being alone was almost impossible. Not difficult. Not uncommon, impossible. Imagine spending every hour of every day within sight of other people. That was normal human life. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies have consistently found that small bands lived in extremely close proximity. A group of 20, 30, sometimes 50 people shared nearly every aspect of existence. They slept near the same fire. They walked together. They gathered food together. They raised children together. There was no bedroom to retreat to. No room where you could shut the door and disappear. If you laughed, everyone heard it. If you cried, everyone noticed. If you were angry, worried, embarrassed, or in love, the entire group knew long before you said a word. And here's the detail most people miss. Ancient humans did not see this as a problem. They were not constantly searching for privacy because the idea itself barely existed. Instead, they developed something much more subtle. They created invisible boundaries. Researchers who have lived among traditional hunter-gatherer groups repeatedly describe the same pattern. Privacy was not protected by physical barriers. It was protected by social understanding. People knew when not to look. They knew when not to ask questions. They knew when not to acknowledge what everyone already understood. Personal space existed, but it existed inside the minds of the group, rather than in the architecture around them. One of the most important examples appears after sunset. For ancient humans, darkness changed everything. Once the fire grew smaller and visibility disappeared, the social rules quietly shifted. Activities that would have attracted attention during daylight suddenly became private, not because nobody knew what was happening, but because everyone agreed not to interfere. Darkness functioned as a natural curtain long before curtains were ever invented. Distance played a similar role. In a world without artificial light, moving only a short distance away from camp could make a person effectively invisible. 50 feet in complete darkness is very different from 50 feet in a modern city. Beyond the reach of the fire, shapes disappear, faces vanish, voices fade. Across multiple hunter-gatherer cultures, anthropologists documented the same unwritten rule. If someone stepped away from the group at night, nobody followed. Nobody asked why. The separation itself communicated everything that needed to be communicated. But the most remarkable behavior was something even more sophisticated: selective silence. Ancient humans understood that social harmony often depended on leaving certain things unspoken. Everyone might know what happened. Everyone might understand exactly what was taking place. But knowledge and acknowledgement were treated as different things. You could know something without forcing it into the open. This created a form of privacy that required no walls at all. Anthropologists have observed versions of this behavior across cultures separated by thousands of miles and countless generations. The details varied, but the principle remained the same. Respect was shown not by creating distance from the group, but by exercising restraint within it. People protected one another's private lives through behavior rather than construction. For hundreds of thousands of years, this system worked remarkably well. Then agriculture arrived. Around 10,000 years ago, humans began settling permanently in specific locations. Permanent settlements led to permanent buildings. Permanent buildings led to walls. And for the first time in human history, privacy became physical. A person could now occupy a space that belonged only to them. A doorway could separate one family from another. A wall could hide activities from outside observers. This seems like an obvious improvement. But the transition came with consequences. Archaeologists studying some of the earliest farming communities have noticed an unexpected pattern. As private spaces increased, signs of interpersonal conflict increased as well. Ownership became more important. Boundaries became more important. Once people could claim a specific space, they could also defend it. And once something belonged to you, someone else could potentially take it away. The walls solved one problem. They created another. Ancient humans had built privacy out of trust, understanding, and social agreement. Agricultural societies increasingly built it out of physical separation. Both systems worked, but they were not the same thing. One depended on relationships, the other depended on barriers, and that difference would eventually reshape the entire human experience. So, here's where we've ended up. For almost the entire history of our species, humans lived without bedrooms, without locked doors, and without any place they could truly call private. They slept beside one another, traveled together, and spent nearly every waking moment surrounded by other people. And yet somehow, they rarely face the kind of loneliness that has become so common today. Here's the strange part. Privacy is now easier to find than at any point in human history. You can close a door, put on headphones, spend hours completely alone. Ancient humans could do none of those things. But while we gained privacy, we may have lost something else. For hundreds of thousands of years, people learned how to create personal space without separating themselves from the group. They relied on trust, understanding, and unwritten social rules. Privacy wasn't a place, it was a relationship. Today, many people know. Their neighbors, less than ancient humans, knew every member of their band. We have more walls than ever before, but often fewer connections behind them. Ancient humans never solved the problem by escaping each other. They solved it by learning how to live together. Then we built walls, and ever since we've been trying to remember what life felt like before them.